let's talk about what you guys are going to get at the end of this. So you guys are going to get the prompt library that Nathan put together to take essentially a transcript of some piece of thought leadership content, whether it be like an interview with your CEO or a podcast that you're running. You're going to take that content and then you're going to turn that into a series of prompts, AI prompts, to generate ultimately a very robust, citable, sourced white paper. Is that right, Nathan?
Yes, and to add to that, not only, and I think this is really cool, not only are we going to show how to make that fully fleshed out white paper and research, but the bigger question on everybody's mind, I think, is rather than just creating content, how do we make it personalized to your brand and make sure that it's unique from your competitor who's using a similar type of process with AI? So how do we make these awesome white papers, and then how do we make sure that they're unique to you?
Awesome. And how many are you churning out, Nathan, like in a given month?
Well, so we built this about 6 weeks ago, and now we do about one per week. And then we host them on the website, and I keep it slow right now because we always have a human in the loop. They are 4,700 words to about 5,000, so they take a couple hours just to edit. But once they're done, yeah, we could put out one a week. We could do 2 a week, maybe even 3 or 4 if we wanted. It's really just how much time your team has to edit. Each one of these, I think, can be turned around though in about 3 hours with really good editing.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. So let's start kick things off with a poll. So how many white papers are you doing per year? 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 plus. The poll just opened up, so you should be able to go in and vote.
I'm super curious too, because white papers are one of those things where it depends on who I talk to. Some people swear by them and say they're the biggest driver for pipe or for pipeline, and then other people say, "Oh, those are dead. Nobody's reading those log form stuff." I keep hearing both sides of it, so I'm interested to see.
Well, then the other debate is like, do you run or do you gate that content? And I had this like argument for the last, like for my entire career. Started out like gating everything, and then I went on this big ungating spree in like the Chris Walker era of like LinkedIn content I was following, where it was like you just need to give your prospect everything. And sort of I've come to the middle now, where I gate like the highest value stuff. Like our compensation benchmarks. Like you've got to contribute to the benchmarks and share your comp info in order to get access. And so that's kind of where I've landed with gating. Where have you landed, Nathan?
I think it makes a lot of sense what you just said. I can't say I've landed firmly anywhere. We do gate these for business emails. However, I would like to add, once we work with our team a little bit, I think gated should be when you're sharing like proprietary data. So it's like data coming from your platform, it's yours, you own it. I typically don't gate things with just external information. However, these white papers are interesting because they do come from transcripts with real thought leaders. I mean, the input is essentially a topic and a transcript with real conversations. So it's also a bit proprietary in that way. So it's kind of this middle ground right now. It's, real insights, but maybe not quantifiable. So I think if it's proprietary data, absolutely gate it. If it's not proprietary data, like you said, if it's higher value, that's up to the team to decide.
For sure. So most people are doing 1 to 5 a year. That makes sense. So the next question, and then we'll dig into the meat of things. It's good for us to get an understanding of where you guys are. Is how many of your white papers would you consider examples of good? Like of the white papers that you're doing, none of them would you consider an example of good? Less than half of them, more than half of them? Be curious, because Nathan, I know you've got some opinions here.
I do. I have huge opinions on this word good. And it just comes from writing at an agency where, 3 or 4 different editors had a different definition of that word. And it was incredibly frustrating. The other thing I've been noticing is when I'm working with teams on AI stuff and we're going to go load an example, I say, I need a good example. And I always get an asterisk when they hand over the example with, oh, this is pretty good. I might make some changes. I might make some tweaks. I might not. But if you don't know what good looks like before building the systems, you can't build good outputs. So it has to be like, there has to be an example that you confidently stand by and say, this is a good white paper produced from us. And if all of our other outputs came out at a rough draft to this level, we'd be very happy. Let's see, are we getting...
Yeah, so we got less than half people consider it good, about 67%, and then 33% more than half of them. So yeah, checks out. So it looks like there's some work to be done, and that's what we're going to be solving for today. So we are going to close the poll and dig into this. And so the first thing that we're going to want to focus on before we do anything else, and I'm going to show you guys how I built this for Pavilion, is the inputs that you need for your AI workflows. So Nathan, like, do you think I should just like share live, or what do you how do you think you want to do this?
Yeah, we could totally share it live. Well, do you want to go over? We can just go over these 6 things at a high level, and then we can hop in there live and check it out. Cool. Yeah, the first 2 up there, the writing guidelines and the tone guidelines. And essentially, the way I like to think of this is we're trying to build a brand brain. And if you were to build a perfect human intern with a photographic memory, what's all of the information that you would need them to have in order to generate personalized content that's unique to your brand? I believe that as a baseline, these are the 6 buckets that you need. Any AI system, doesn't matter the tool or platform you're using, whatever AI tool you're working with should have this as context if you want high quality outputs on the back end. I see so many people call AI outputs generic, but it's because AI has no clue in the background what is connected to the brand, how that brand's connected to what the topic it's writing about. All that human nuance that you as an expert kind of take for granted, we need to retrain into these AI tools. Does that make sense? I know my diatribes.
It does 100%. And I think, well, for me, it was the hardest part was, well, I used AI to generate most of these, frankly,
Yeah.
just scraping my website. But then when it came to the audience segmentation, product offerings, like all that stuff, it's an exercise that like needs to be done anyways. So it's sort of just like a forcing function. And one of the things that I'm working on personally at Pavilion is how do we create a central store of our knowledge? And so what I ended up doing is I created a Google Drive folder, and I just call it sales assets for LLM. We use a tool called Tribble in Slack that you can at help and then ask it any question, and it references essentially a live spreadsheets, docs, whatever's in this folder that I'm asking Tribble to like call. And so what's really neat is I'm able to sort of create the central store that everybody references through all their workflows. So when I was building this for Pavilion and using Copy AI, I was able to just be like, okay, I've already done the work inside of this Google Drive folder. Let me just like use the approved assets. And then the whole team is just working out of that one folder. Certainly, I'm sure there's content management systems or certain things that you could use or purchase, but I found that this was like the easiest way to get complete alignment on like what is our brand voice doc, what is this doc, what is that, because we all know there's docs are everywhere. Everybody's making something new. The product marketing hire you hired like a year ago is not here anymore, whatever.
Yes, and I love that you're calling attention to these docs. Either need to be uniformly put into the tools that your team is using, or they need to be accessible to the team so that they can be loaded into the tools by the end user, if that makes sense. Because the concern, and we've seen this with a bunch of teams, is they'll say, okay, this year we're going AI, we're transforming AI. Everyone gets a license to ChatGPT, and that was like now they're going AI native with licenses. ChatGPT is an awesome tool, but if you have 20 different marketers or sales reps prompting it in 20 different ways, all with different background information, and then expecting like unified messaging for your customers, that's wild. That's just not going to happen. So I really think those backgrounds are the most important. And I don't know, can we show the slide really quick of those 6 buckets? I just want to call a few distinctions on there, if you don't mind. I get a lot of questions on the writing guidelines and the tone guidelines and how those are different. I just wanted to be clear. When I say writing guidelines, I really mean like editorial, those grammar and vocabulary rules. Are there words that you don't want to use? Are there words in your category you do? Do you use the Oxford comma? Do you not? Just a codification of those grammar rules that your brand does. And then tone is totally different and very difficult. The reason being, it's a feeling that's very subjective: warm, professional, friendly, rebellious. These are all adjectives that describe tones of voice that mean something different to the person saying the word. So Josh, if you say the word rebellious for like a brand voice, it'll probably mean something different than it does to me. So what's really important on all of that tone more than anywhere else are the high quality examples. You should be loaded with, when we say rebellious, here's a snippet that we're talking about. When we say the adjective warm and friendly, here's what that looks like. And those can't have asterisks by the examples.
So this is how I built it. Frankly, like I did this, we have a robust doc, but just for the sake of this demo, I just went into just ChatGPT and was like, analyze the Pavilion website and explain how our readers should be feeling in a way that is for the LLM, for an LLM to reference.
Yeah.
And so I kind of end it with like for an LLM to reference, and then that's able to spit back this like awesome tone guideline. So got the tone guideline, got the writing guideline. The writing guideline was really interesting because like I didn't really consider like, do we use the Oxford comma? Do we not use the Oxford comma? So yeah, it's saying that we use the Oxford comma everywhere on our website. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's going to be how we do it. And then the other thing is like, you know, in headlines, we use GTM, not go to market. We use B2B, not business to business. So there's little nuances,
Yes.
Nathan, that like when we do create content, when you go back and edit it, you don't have to be like, oh my gosh, like, why are you saying go to market without GTM? Like, this is an obvious term for the industry, right? So that's what I like about kind of setting the groundwork with these guides.
Although quick, this has happened in every AI tool I've used with the acronym GTM. I built a workflow where the input was GTM as a keyword, and I built a whole bunch of content from that workflow around Google Tag Manager because the workflow thought I was talking about.
Oh no.
So I had to put go to market equals GTM and program that in. Super common mistake, right? Like, how could it know that I wanted that? Like, I didn't tell it, and that's also very common. So it just went with it. Very also pretty high quality content on Google Tag Manager, just not what I wanted. So
I'm trying to think about the domain score of Google Tag Manager right now.
yeah, yeah, they'll bet they're just crushing it.
GTM is like, so it's just coming up. Like there's now like categories for products.
Oh yeah, that's a
GTM.
crack up. I never thought about that.
I mean, even you guys are positioning yourself as like the GTM
go to market AI platform.
Yeah, and we're positioning Pavilion as like the single place for go-to-market leaders to go, GTM leaders to go to grow their careers and learn new skills. So I love it. And speaking of learning new skills, I learned all this stuff today. So first we got widening guidelines, toe guidelines, audience segmentation. So what that looks like for me is literally just, we have this really robust segmentation framework for Pavilion about like people's motivations, why they join Pavilion, and then the different job role segments. So I fed that into the AI. And then content references. I think we should touch on this a little bit, Nathan. So we've got the writing guidelines, the tone guidelines, your audience, your ICP, and then the content references, which is not just like your most popular pages. It's like content that you want to be backlinked from the article, right?
Yes. Yeah. So anytime that you want like a good example of this is, well, two good examples here. We built something. I got tired of people on the sales team asking me, what type of content do you have on this topic? When all of the content's loaded, you just can make a searchable, that question can now be asked to the chat tool and it retrieves all the relevant information. So that's a huge, just if nothing else, stopped us from being a task rabbit for the sales team, which was really cool. The other thing though about this is every piece of content is presumably one stage of the customer funnel. If you have all of this loaded in there, it's really easy to inject related materials to help guide them down lower to that closer to the bottom of the funnel. And you can do that now without having to have a photographic memory of all of the content you have on hand, because AI has photographic memory for you. It can analyze all of the URL slugs, it can analyze transcripts from your YouTube video, and it can find the relevant conversations that have already been had that make sense to be inside of whatever asset somebody's reading. Whew. Excuse me, that was quite a long.
You were fired up. So what I did, and I'm sure most of you guys either use like HubSpot or whatever, or some sort of CMS. I literally just exported all our resources and their description and the slug, and so from there, I'm able to then feed the AI with like things that we can backlink on, and then the last piece is like, what are your products that you offer and what are the benefits? And so I put this together the other day, actually, for an LLM, and it's pretty robust. And so I also fed that into the knowledge base. So maybe we can just like dive right in. But Nathan, I think before we get started, so obviously, like elephant in the room, like we are copy AI users. Nathan works at Copy AI. But I want to be really clear here that like the stuff that we're doing today, you can replicate on your own, not using Copy AI. Of course, like Copy AI is a great tool, but you could go into Zapier or make.com and add AI steps, what I call prompt chaining. And we'll get into that in a little bit, where you have like one prompt that does the research, one prompt that does the initial pass it writing. Like we're going to share all of that at the end of the call. It's just going to be a link to the prompt library doc. So you can be able to replicate this on your own. Cause ultimately, like, that's what I want, is like everyone to be able to be armed, especially marketers. Like, everything's moving so fast. I want us to all be armed with like especially the prompts that you need to be successful. And that's what I'm finding, Nathan, the biggest gap on a lot of like the talking heads on LinkedIn is like, they talk about workflows, they talk about all these things, but it's like, just show the freaking prompts. Like, and don't make me comment to see the prompt. Like, you know what I mean? And so like, anyways, so my new tirade is just like, we're going to do more of these where we just like share the actual like prompts that you can clone for yourself. We're going to be showing this whole demo in Copy AI, but just imagine that this is any other workflow tool. It could be Clay going left to right in your table. It could be ChatGPT, or it could be Zapier. It could be Make a scenario. It could be a Zapier Zap. Like, you add a ChatGPT step, or you add a Claude Anthropic step. Like, all these things are possible in other tools. We use Copy AI. Copy AI makes life a lot easier for us. Yeah, you want to dive right in, Nathan?
Absolutely. But yes, we'll dive right in. I was just going to say a quick note, but this might get me in trouble. So I don't want to. Right now, more than ever, is a great time to be really careful who you're taking advice from on LinkedIn, because there is a significant amount of influencers who were popular pre-AI and have not necessarily been in the trenches that they're now saying how to codify. A lot of people are still talking high-level strategy, and I just love seeing, like Josh said, the people that are on LinkedIn pulling the curtain back and saying, these are the prompts that we're using to get this result. This is not just theory. And so, yeah, hopefully we can continue to do that for everybody. It's not enough of it.
So the writing guidelines failed. So I'm going to go ahead and upload the writing guidelines real quick.
And a great start for Copy AI. Here we go.
No, it's great. One of the cool things that you can do is I can tag things. So anytime I reference this in a workflow, I can just say #content. And all of my content, which is pretty much all this stuff right here, is all tagged with the content tag. And so that way, for anybody in the team that's building a workflow out or building something out in Copy AI, they can just do #content to call all the things in the content library. So it's pretty nice to have that.
Thank you very much for pitching those features. I swear I'm not paying Josh to say that stuff. But
no, and I swear I don't have a million workflows. I swear.
I can't see your face either on the screen either. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but
I think it's intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the man. So let's go into the workflow itself. So we called it transcript to white paper. Here we go. Okay, cool. So just so y'all know, we haven't actually, like, I've seen Nathan build this before, but we have not built this for the config that I set up for Pavilion. And so this is going to be a really fun exercise where we're going to take an episode of the Top Line podcast and feed it into this workflow and get essentially like the insights, or not the insights, the actual white paper out of the insights gleaned from the actual podcast episode that we did this past week. I believe it was episode 115 of Top Line. So Nathan, want to just jump right in. So I guess every workflow does start with an input, and this could be an input from an API call. It could be an input from a CSV upload, whatever that is. Nathan, you want to guide us through this?
Yeah. So I built this one sectionally, and I'll walk through it really quickly. I also want to define how I call a workflow and why I believe that it's better to treat larger tasks, especially long form writing, this way. So I think a lot of people, what they do is when they need a long form thing like a blog post or a white paper, is they'll go to ChatGPT and say, hey, write me this whatever asset or whatever. And it treats the process of writing a white paper like a single task, and it oversimplifies it. And I think that dilutes a lot of the outputs. Whereas if you look here, we'll scroll through all of these steps that are happening to make this one single white paper's first draft. We start with find statistics. So we are searching through Perplexity to pull 10 stats. It is going to create a sectional brief. And in that brief, if you click on that action, there's an outline of all of the what we'll need to cover. There we go. Introduction, problem, executive summary. So I know which sections we need to write. When we go down, We can write now things sectionally, because after about 1,000 words, and it really doesn't matter which LLM you're using, they're getting better. But after about 1,000 words, just the writing quality, it gets a bit dumber. And so I'm really breaking this down sectionally, mapping out the sections that we would use at Copy AI. Josh, if at Pavilion you guys did something else, you could duplicate a step and then just reprompt how that section should be. So everything that I would want in an executive summary is here in the prompt background. But they're all modifiable. So we could duplicate this whole workflow, and then let's say you don't want an executive summary. You just delete that step, and we'll start with the introduction. Or let's say instead of an executive summary, we want to call it a TLDR. We just reprompt it for exactly what we want. So I break the white papers down into sections on what our audience would be interested in. For us, that was executive summary, so quick if they just had a glance. Introduction that explains a bit more. A deep dive into the problem. What problem are we focused on here? Talking about cross-functional alignment, because for our white paper, so this is something the Pavilion might not want, but our audiences are blended enough that it would probably make sense here. Talking about how teams should work cross-functionally, because that's something that we believe AI should be solving for, rather than go to market as a teams sport. It should be a team sport. Right. A section, you are probably going to want to delete that section. Write a section for why point solutions aren't going to be the best option for this. And so we are choosing topics that talk about cross-functional alignment, and we don't want those data silos. So those are very relevant to our white papers. Josh, you're probably going to want to delete that one, though. I can't imagine that would be as relevant to Pavilion.
Bye.
And then the Copy AI GTM platform, this is the step that would need to be changed the most, where you're talking about a Pavilion, but what's great is you already have the document there. So when we change this, we'll just need to call in the information from Infobase, which we'll do in a second.
Cool.
We can write up key metrics and ROI from the research stats or from the transcript if it was discussed, which hopefully it was. Write implementation or best practices for whatever we're trying to put in there, and then a conclusion and a CTA to book a demo. Those are the sections that make sense to us. But again, this is all modifiable. So like you just saw, Josh, no code just deletes one of those actions. And then in the format output, we'll just have to remove it and we'll be set. So we can just walk through now and flesh this out for Pavilion.
Yeah, this underscores the importance of prompt chaining.
Yes.
And so one of the habits that I've seen people get into is they think that like one single prompt is going to get them the response that they want. You've got to chain your prompts. And especially if you're building something like a white paper, you've got to chain your prompts, because otherwise it's just not, the output's going to suck. And then you can diagnose specific parts of the white paper. Maybe it's the brief that needed to get refined. Maybe it's the introduction that didn't set the stage the right way. You can go back in and fix the little things, so that way you don't have to just go and reinvent the wheel in your massive prompt. And I've ran into this personally with like certain things in Clay, where it just generates a massive prompt for the thing that I want, but I'm like, oh, wait. I actually don't want that many steps, because the output's going to be like a lot crappier. So let's dive into this now. And then also the one thing I do want to note, Nathan, so people can sign up for Copy AI. Like, can they sign up? Like, is it like product lab where they could just sign up online?
They can sign up online for free. I think they get 2,000 credits, workflow credits or something like that, I think. And they can also reach out to me, Nathan Likes Writing. Ironically, the handle Nathan Likes Writing on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me there and I'll hook you up with what you need.
So we'll make sure that we send to everybody that's here, and we'll drop the link in the chat at the end, a link to the prompts that we're going to be using here, as well as a link to the actual workflow template. So if you end up deciding to sign up for Copy AI, you can just steal the template. All right. Cool.
So the first thing I would ask, Josh, is what sections do you think Pavilion would want to have? Because I think some of this will be a little bit too copy specific.
Yeah. So let's start at the end here. So or not the end, but let's start with the input. So we're going to be doing here's the transcript we're going to be putting in. It's a top line podcast. And the focus is around the shift from the SaaS era companies to native AI companies, and how that's creating winners and losers in B2B tech. So this is like very much like a thought leadership type piece. So I probably would want to kill anything that's like related directly to like selling a product. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so if we're going through, you'd probably want to we have the problem identification. That makes sense. Cross-functional alignment, that's probably going to want to go.
Okay.
I would change. So do we want to mention Pavilion at all in a section or no?
Let's see how it does. If we can like
Okay,
connect it
cool.
tactfully. Yeah.
So let's fix up that right copy AI GTM platform. Let's personalize that for Pavilion a bit more, at least. We'll
Okay.
start there. All right. So what you've written so far, good. We'll have to get rid of one of those steps.
Cool.
Gonna read through, and now we're gonna want to change this. So I'd say write the introduction to Pavilion, and then you can just hashtag and call in your Pavilion overview.
Ooh.
And that will bring in all that information that you've loaded in the background directly into your prompt. It's almost like you've copied and pasted all that text in there.
Oh, should I load just the company description, or should I load the like everything that I have?
Let's start with company description, and
Because the company description is really short.
let's do company description and then one other doc around it. I don't think we need the tone and guidelines on this one.
Yeah, I think benefits by tier would be good.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. This should be roughly 500 words, include links and markdown.
Then you could get rid of all that if you want.
Yeah, because we actually already have the writing style defined.
Yeah.
So I could kill all of this.
Just say your writing style is and pull in that info base. There we go.
So writing guidelines, and then your tone is that what term you would use, tone?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll do tone guidelines. Cool. So this is good.
Right.
And then I'll probably just kill this context.
Yeah, get rid of that that structure as well. Or introducing Pavilion, and then yeah, we'll have to get rid of that last paragraph about copy AI. All right, cool. The biggest thing though is that none of this is code necessary. So you do all of it in English, which I need because I'm a bit of a code dummy. All right.
Cool. So we're giving the AI. This is why the prompt chaining is so important. Whatever you're using for this, is you can like for example in Zapier, you can reference the output of the previous step. So in this case in Zapier, if you're going top to bottom, you could reference like these few different things.
And it is important because I've noticed if I don't do that, it gets really repetitive. It starts pulling the same information from transcripts, the same types of information into each section, and it starts to get repetitive. But when I show it what it's written, then it'll tap into the new things, which is really cool. I imagine you're going to need, to get rid of some of that.
Yeah. In fact, I almost think that this might not be as content focused or like education focused if we focus really on like the ROI.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like provides quantifiable evidence of the business value, incorporates relevant statistic, incredible baselines and improvement projections for the content shared for the topic.
I also want to point out, I imagine that this first draft is going to be like awesome, but there is just back and forth that I think some people give up a little bit too quickly. And I've heard this over and over. People say, I can't find the 8 hours that I know will save me 80. So I can't find the day to experiment with all of this stuff to unlock all the time savings I know that it will. I really, really encourage people to try and block off time for this type of testing because it does, once you get it to a point where you're 90% confident in the outputs and it, just a little bit of editing on the back end, it makes everything go so much faster. But it can feel tedious, what Josh is doing right now.
Yeah, but basically what I'm doing is I'm refactoring this away from the focus on copy AI as a product to about the topic of the podcast. So I'm saying begin with a short introduction, emphasizing the importance of the topic, present 3 to 5 key metrics that support the topic and the narrative shared by the podcast guests. And I think that's fine. And then we can just remove this.
That, yeah.
Yep. Cool. Right, implementation best practices. Is this related to like implementing the tool?
Yeah, for the sake of today, we could probably get rid of that step, I would think, just for today.
Okay, cool.
And we can add something in later if we want. And then the conclusion CTA, we get the remove that missing action, and then we'll make sure we get away from copy AI. Nice.
Let's see. From the conclusion, synthesizes the report's key findings, a compelling case for immediate action, relevant statistics that reinforces the topic.
I also want to point out two things that you mentioned that I really like. Excuse me, one thing that you pointed out, which is just using chat for this type of thing. Using AI to create the background information and even more rich prompts is so smart. Like, I just think that makes so much sense. The only thing that I don't recommend using AI for is your examples. I've had people say, like, they'll give me examples that were clearly generated by ChatGPT, and then the outputs, they're like, well, this sounds like ChatGPT. And well, yes, because that was the example provided. So like all of this background stuff, don't even type it, just talk at a chat tool and get all of it formulated. And now like his writing guidelines and the tone guidelines and all this stuff that he's adding, you can just talk and get that fleshed out. No customers are going to see that as long as the information's accurate. It's the examples that will give the writing style a lot more direction that need to be human written and focused on. There you go.
Cool. I'm just literally just BSing my way through this, but
I almost was going to tell you to write go to market because of I was worried about Google Tag Manager. That's hilarious. Yeah, then we remove some of those steps. We'll fix up problem identification. We can run it, and then I can show a live run from.
it's like while this pie is in the oven, I have already prepared one for you. It reminds me of, I used to watch a show as a kid called Zoom.
Oh yeah, you were a Zoom kid too?
Yeah, man. And you would just like, they would do the baking section and they'd be like, well, and instead of you waiting.
Yes. Oh, I forget who it was. I had such a crush on one of the Zoom people. I forget who it was. It was one of my first crushes. That just brought back so many fun memories. That's nice. I forget who it was. Okay, let's see.
I'm just putting in the writing guidelines here.
Oh, nice.
People are just at the edge of their seat, I know.
People are just ready for the 4th of July. Let's be honest. They're just ready for Friday.
It's true. Wait, isn't today Canada Day?
It is Canada Day. I'm taking I'm coming in on our holiday.
Oh shit. Well, happy Canada Day, my friend.
Thank you. I actually still celebrate the 4th.
You double up.
I do. I try to double up, and then at that point, just take the week, right? Because
yeah,
why not? All right, there we go.
Let's see. All right, writing guidelines. All right, cool. So all I'm doing here, just for everybody's reference, is I am just updating each step to include the brand guideline or the brand voice stuff that we have. So I have my tone and then my writing style. Cool. And then all I'm going to do is just start with a proactive question or statement about maybe not current GTM challenges, but about, I don't know, the topic.
Yeah. You can even say the topic and then pull it in with a hashtag. So yeah, there it is.
I think it's initial manual input. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to rename that. There we go.
Credibility, urgency around just the problem. So yeah, I mean, this podcast episode was about like essentially like what's going on in SaaS and AI tooling and how like the traditional business model of SaaS is, I want to say dying because I feel like that's like the most clickbaity thing, but like refactoring. So what we're going to do now is just go ahead and test it. And then Nathan's going to share the more robust one. I'm going to save this as like a content clone that you guys can use for like educational content. And then Nathan will have the one to share with you guys for like the more product focused type content.
And we will even generate the transcript from this call and hopefully we'll have a white paper available from this very webinar.
Amazing. Wait, so I can just literally paste the whole transcript in here?
Paste the transcript. I would take the word topic out And so, because what's going to happen is it's basically this topic is going to get researched by Google. So in that first initial, yeah, there we go. And then let's see what happens. I haven't used a topic that long before, but I'm excited to find out.
All right, cool.
Good.
So what's cool? Yeah.
What's really neat is like none of this is set in, none of the outputs here are going to get tattooed on anybody's body. So there's no life and death if it doesn't come out perfect. And I just love taking the pressure off the first run of it. Like it's probably going to be a little bit generic and silly, but think of the things that you don't like as a big sign that says fix this, because anything you don't like, you can then just go back and tell it, we don't want to do that, and give it an example. So I will steal this now, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Way too much coffee today.
You're feeling it.
I am feeling it.
You're also the workflow guru. So if you follow Nathan on LinkedIn, he literally just like does this for fun, and I love it.
It's so nice of you to say. I do love it. That, and I don't know why. It's a weird. I just think it's the coolest thing. Okay. So this was AI agents and agentic workflows. I spoke with Chris Liu. He is our CTO and co-founder. So he would be the person who would know the most about this. One thing I want to point out is, again, this transcript has the original insights and perspective of the company. So that's another part of this. The input holds a certain amount of uniqueness in it because it's coming from your team's actual transcripts. When you outsource this type of input to AI, like you say, AI, go come up with some thoughts for me to think, like that's never going to work well. But if you have original thoughts, pop that transcript in, get the topic. We've got some questions that we can research, all of this, and I will just go down. We have statistics here, all from the last 1 to 2 years. I saw one from 2023 here, so I will make, oh no, excuse me, that was just part of the statistic. We have executive summary statistics get broken down. Wasn't able to find those, but still ran. That's fine. And we go through. I will just show the final one, the only thing anybody cares about. So now we start here, and you can see things like this. The anchor text is too long, so I'm going to have to shorten that. But we have these links that pop out to where they need to, and I can go through and now verify these.
Nathan, real quick, are you manually doing this, or did you end up hiring like somebody to review your content outputs?
I hired someone, and she's awesome. I used arc.dev for this type of thing. But let me be clear. I got this to a point where I edited the first few manually to make sure it was getting it to a point where she could work with it. And now that she can work with it, she does. The only reason I don't do it myself is on the content side, being a very, very small team. There's just so many other things that we got to get going. So she edits this. Again, I got it from arc.dev. But it comes out with all that I need in that first draft. And again, I'm shooting for 85 to 90% of the way there. And I want her to be able to edit this out into something really good in about 2 to 3 hours, which you even get a table in some of these that come out, which is really neat.
So Nathan, so what was the overall topic of this?
This was AI agents, versus AI agentic workflows and the difference between the two.
Okay. So have you found that it's, because there's some people on the call that work in security. So from like a technical product standpoint, like how have you found that these types of workflows have been helpful? Because I know you're also selling to into IT to some extent, right?
Yeah. It's any knowledge that you would expect a human to have can be absolutely codified into this, even if it's super technical. If you have technical docs. Also, none of this goes to train any LLM. We don't build our LLMs, and they don't go back to like ChatGPT or anything. But you also have options, and so there are different models that are better for different tasks, which is a benefit of using a platform like Copy or Zapier, because then you can stitch together different models and different tools in that way. Like research tasks, OpenAI is phenomenal at. But then Opus from Claude tends to write better customer-facing content, is what we found. But then you have Google takes in so much context window that if you needed to analyze 1 million, characters, it does that really well. So you get to play around with all of this stuff at that level. Sorry. I just messed it up, and I don't want to mess it up. Okay, there we go. But any of that technical knowledge can be put into Infobase and then called in, the only recommendation that I always have with people is keep the human in the loop at the end. Always. I think that the human in the loop on this type of asset needs to be in the strategy section. It is so easy to just start making shit because, or just making stuff because you can make stuff. It's so easy, but that's pointless. So strategy, why are we making this? Who are we making for? What's the impact we want? And then editing. Is this going to help us reach those goals? And if a human is in the loop at every one of those steps, there's not a niche on this planet that we can't codify to a really good 90%. I don't believe.
Love it. So this took what, 3 minutes to run or so?
It finished?
Yeah, it finished. And so this transcript, just so y'all know, is like an hour long of content. So it's really freaking meaty. So we started, the first step was to find statistics. And this is important because we're able to see, I guess, Nathan, is this just like basically things that we'll cite in the article?
Yeah.
Cool. So this just develops those links. And then we have the section brief. Makes sense. I definitely threw copy AI somewhere in there, which is fine.
Yeah, we'll read that out.
And then, so this is what's nice is like we have our key points, summarize the fundamental market shift from SaaS era to AI native, relevant stats. It pulls the stats from above, tone and approach. So it's basically just kind of creating the brief for the article that we're writing or the white paper that we're writing. So this looks great. Anything you want to double down on here, Nathan?
Like you said earlier, if you're not happy with the outputs, you can go back upstream to find the weakest link and say, okay, well, our brief is coming out this way. No wonder that final output's coming this way. And then you can start to work on the brief and then bring the brief quality up. And once that brief quality is up, everything downstream goes really well. So if you're not happy with the final output, it's really good to work your way upstream in the workflow to figure out where that weak link is that needs fixing.
Yep. Cool. So the executive summary checks out, cites the sources, provides us with the key findings. And this is what I really like is, and I almost am thinking about using this to do prep, to help the team with prep for the podcast too. Of like, if I know they're going to get on, like we had the COO of ClickUp on the podcast a few weeks ago. Like if I knew that we were going to have the COO of ClickUp on the podcast, I could prep a workflow that just like does all the research into what they're focused on and then like what the topic of the podcast is, and just arm the guests with stats that they can sort of spit off to add some color to the conversation. Because it's really hard when you're in a conversation. Like if you were to be like, Josh, like what percentage of leads turn into MQLs? I'd be like,
yeah,
I don't know the benchmark, but if we can at least have some stats ready to go, that's going to be nice. So this is nice. We've got the executive summary. We've got the intro. Is enterprise still playing by the SaaS era rules while AI native competitors rewrite the entire playbook? So, I mean, Nathan, we started this with the we told it to start with like a provocative question.
Yeah, and that's right. We did that.
Oh, it even dropped in a quote. This is nice.
I didn't source it though. That's where you need, and then you could go back to the Marketing Institute and find it in the research. Hopefully,
exactly. So we got our problem identification. Traditional SaaS companies face an existential threat. AI native competitors are shipping product improvements at 4x the speed while capturing unprecedented market share. So this is cool. AR maturity playbook. Nice. Okay. So I like this. And then of course, this is the boilerplate. So this is what it spit out when I gave it context into our ICP. And
I hate that first sentence.
You what?
I hate that first sentence so much.
Well,
so
yeah.
quick tip to anybody really quickly when they see in today's hyper competitive market, if you just delete that and then capitalize the S, usually the rest of the sentence starts as a good introduction. If you just get rid of in today's hyper competitive market and just start it with success, it usually does better. So it'd be success.
All right. Boom, I just saved it. So we're
good. Nice. Shit, you changed that right in there. Cool.
Doesn't that read so much better though? You're so right.
It does. Isn't that funny? Just that one change.
All right, so Nathan, okay, so I see an M dash here. What is your take on the M dash?
I think everyone needs to calm down about the M dash. I love it. I love it so much. It's clear and it's punchy and it does what it needs to do. And I loved them before AI. I will love them after AI. And you know what? Because now I've had a lot of coffee and I am amped up on this. OpenAI is going to come out with a new model next week, and it's going to use a semicolon too much, and everyone's going to freak out about the semicolon for 6 months, and then it's going to start using a certain type of quote or another piece of grammar, and everyone's going to just like, to me, is it clear? Is it very clear? And is it helpful? That's all I care about. But other people might feel different.
I'm sure we could start a debate.
I think we should, yeah. M dash to the death.
Love this, love this. I mean, ultimately what I can do is I could go back and even take the ultimate output and then just run it through another model and say, rewrite this in this specific way. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do this.
This is the viest of ones, right? Like you could add an editing step to take out those stupid in the hyper competitive landscape as a follow-up step. You could create carousels that are broken down by field that go into Canva or Google Slides. You could create paid ad copy that's going to be on LinkedIn to promote the white paper. But the ad copy step has the exact paper loaded as context, so it's writing it really, really on point and on message. Like, the possibilities here are endless. We're living in the coolest time to be marketers.
Indeed. And Carol is pro MDAsh, by the way. Thank you, Carol. So this is what I really like, the key metrics in ROI, because this is what I spent a little bit of time on. What I like about this is it presented the ROI of essentially like the risk, like the opportunity cost of like adopting AI. And it says premium valuations averaging 2.5x higher multiples than AI laggard peers, accelerated M&A opportunities. Like basically like, what are you giving up by not adopting AI either in your product or building an AI company? ROI reality check. And then of course, now this is when it's mixing in with copy AIs.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
But this kind of gives you this gives folks an idea about how like you can have content sort of weave in with your product positioning. So I like this because it's literally like the problem. You've got to move to a more like AI native strategy, and then we're now presenting copy AI as a solution. So I actually don't hate it.
That's been my whole play. I'm trying to make this workflow super popular so people secretly link to copy AI all the time. I'll just spread out this.
It's like keyword stuffing, but you're going to be like link stuffing copy AI backlinks.
Yeah, our free tools always pitch back to copy AI. That is not true, for the record, before I get fired.
Dude, that is hilarious. Okay, cool. So I've got this in here, which is great. And then I can just go in and copy and edit it somewhere. I can edit it in here. I can send it to Google Docs. And I think, Nathan, can I just like, if I wanted to, I'm not going to, but I could just like send this to Webflow. I could send this to Google Docs if I wanted to, right?
Google Docs natively, Webflow with the Zap, all the fields you need.
Nice. Yeah, so I could just create it as a Google Doc. So ultimately, like what you can do, and this is the way that I'm starting to operationalize things. So if I've got like let's just say I have 5 briefs I want to run. I can go into the table here. I'm just going to go ahead and, it's because I added that. I can go into the table here and I can just import a CSV of like the rows that I want to add. And that rows can be like the content. You could have like an audit process where like somebody like does a content request and they click submit, and then that passes a webhook to this tool that runs it and then maybe returns the brief in a Slack message. I'm just trying to think about ways that you could like really like operationalize people's content ideas.
Oh yeah. Everything you just said. You could send it a ping in Slack. You could, like what we do is we host it on our website, and then we run paid ads to the exact persona that we wrote it for. And because it didn't take us 4 weeks and $10,000 to produce, we feel a bit looser with the targeting, meaning we can target really niche down. So like, this is for this exact person or profile or ICP. And tomorrow we have another one for this exact person or ICP. We can just be more strategic because we're not bottlenecked in the creation part of it. I mean, we already created it with the conversation. That's what's frustrating. We already have the information. We've said it. We just now need it restructured.
It's true. I love it. Okay, cool. So I just dropped the prompt library in the chat. So take a look at that. And then Nathan, you'll share the links to the workflows that people can use on their own. So as a follow-up for those of you who are like live on the LinkedIn, we'll send that out after the webinar. If you're live on LinkedIn, I see there's people live on LinkedIn. I'm going to make sure that you guys get access to those prompts as well. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat now. And I mean, I'd be remiss to like Nathan, like we're doing this as like, because this is just incredibly helpful for me personally and for like any content team out there. But I just do want to give you a chance to just share like what Copy AI does and like
that's
who
nice.
you work with. That would be helpful just as we close out.
Thank you very much. That's really nice of you. Copy AI is the world's first go-to-market AI platform, and what we're solving for is hopefully the bigger picture. So rather than being a solution just for marketing, or solution just for sales, or just for success, how do you work all of those together? One announcement, if I can take the time really quick, is we have a launch to follow on Content Agent Studio. It's kind of like an introduction to workflows. It's not as complicated, and to build any piece of asset, you just need 3 examples loaded of what good looks like, and it reverse engineers the structure and creates you that type of content in the future. So definitely keep your eye on that if workflows looked intimidating. Content Agent Studio is what it's called. But yeah, our goal is to make sure sales, marketing, customer success is all working from the same data, so your customer has a better experience along the way. And we're the anti-point solution club, the most beautiful shirt that you have on right now. That's what we're trying to be, solve for the bigger picture. So thank you for letting me say that. I appreciate that. All right. I feel like we still have 23 people out of the people that should, like, people are sticking around. That's awesome. I don't know if there's any final questions or.
Yeah, if you got any questions, drop them in the chat. I just logged on to LinkedIn to drop the prompt library there. So if you're on LinkedIn, check the comments. You can grab the prompt library. If anybody's got questions, reach out to Nathan. I think Nathan, you are in the Pavilion Slack. So if you're a Pavilion member, you can hound Nathan and ask him all your questions. You can ping me, Josh Carter, PVLN, in the Pavilion Slack. And we're both on LinkedIn, but honestly, the Pavilion Slack is the place to be. Shameless plug, but it is. This was fun, Nathan. Thanks, man.
Awesome. This was very awesome. Oh, I feel like a question just came through. Hold on. Carolyn, is there too much, too often for publishing content? I believe that yes. I asked myself this question. It sounds really tedious, but then it starts to become a habit, and it makes sense. Anytime we're going to do a blog post, white paper, something like that, 2 magic questions at the top. What are they going to get? So, like, what's our customer going to get? Why are we doing this for them? What are we hoping to get? Both of those are super important, I think, in a business context. So you want to add value for sure, but then you want to have goals. And so if people are writing blog posts just because they feel like they need blog posts, that's too much too often. If you're writing a blog post and you can answer, why are we doing this to help them, and what do we want back from it? Now you have a strategy, and you can never have too much or too often of that type of content, in my view.
Love it. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Nathan. This was fun. Until next time, if you liked it, hit us up and let us know you want to see more of this, and we'll keep it going.
This was awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.